expect to.
Did you offer to take him?
No, he's not.
We have sausage gravy and biscuits. But I was thinking about maybe Ramos. Liz and I have resigned to serve
You had a,
biscuits.
instead of, yes, 7 o'clock, you had a biscuit.
I'll have to take my blood this afternoon. I'll take it soon. I'll take it.
I printed this out, but I replaced more. I think it was just yours. I just two of them. Yeah, that's what we'll do today.
Okay. I'm back, Biffy. Let me know when Tom's on the line.
Okie dokie, thank you.
Responsibly from your friends at Wine and Beverage Merchants.
Hello, everyone. From the Watchdog, I'm Darnell Foster with a look at your local weather forecast for your Tuesday. We'll call it mostly cloudy, a couple of flurries. Daytime high near 35. Your overnight low of 24 degrees under partly cloudy skies. A mix of clouds and limited sunshine for your Wednesday, with temperatures in the upper 20s for daytime highs. Have yourself a great day, everyone. From the Watchdog, I'm Darnell Foster.
The views and opinions expressed on the following program are not necessarily those of this station or its sponsors.
This is the Watchdog Morning Show with Howard Monroe and Brad Leonard behind the board in the producer's chair.
Round number 2 here on the Watchdog Morning Show for a Tuesday. The second cup of coffee is already filled and ready to be sipped. And I believe I shall here, because I'm in the need for a little coffee this morning. It's good, it's good. You know, the only thing better than that coffee, Biffy, would be...
Food?
Sausage, gravy, and biscuits.
Yes.
If I could just get some of that along with my coffee, I would be good. What's coming up today here on the gig? It is back to the classroom day for schools around West Virginia. After months of basically remote learning, the governor has ordered everyone back into the classroom this week. On some occasions, it'll be split 2 days on, 2 days off, but it's back to the classroom beginning today in West Virginia. We'll look at how different districts are handling that. Conversations continue on the potential reduction in state income tax in West Virginia. Sean O'Leary from the Center on Budget and Policy will be with us. Let's run some numbers and we'll talk about if we do eliminate and or get rid of the state income tax, what's likely to happen to our budget, or if we have to increase revenue, where will that increase come from? We'll talk about that with Sean coming up in just a bit. Ohio County Health Department is hoping to lower the age for the next vaccination clinic to 65 plus, so now to be the 65 plus, the 70, the 80 years old. However, Health Department says they are waiting to see how much vaccine they get and when the next round of vaccine comes in before they start taking calls for appointments. Apparently, Ohio County is now using a call center, which makes a huge amount of sense. We talked yesterday with the head of the Washington Association of Local Health Departments about how some districts have begun using call centers because what was going on at some occasions where people were calling to make their vaccine appointments at the local health department. Well, health departments have 3 or 4 phone lines, and that's all they were doing was calling those local health department lines. And they were getting busy signals for like 6, 7, 8 hours at a time. By the time you get through, you would have be no more appointments. So apparently the deal is going to be once the next round of vaccine comes into Ohio County, they have a call center, so you'll be able to call the call center, not the health department, but the call center number, and make an appointment. And they say that when the appointments are booked up, they simply are going to stop answering the phones. You won't be able you won't worry about getting busy signals because they're just not going to answer at all. Anyways, we'll talk more about that coming up a little bit later on. And D.C. is preparing for the Biden-Harris inaugural and also bracing for the potential of violence. We'll talk to Tom Squitieri about that from the nation's capital. In fact, why don't we start talking about that right now? Tom was with us this morning. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Howard. Happy Tuesday.
Are you in D.C.? I mean, have you been around to see what it's like down there with the?
I have been around. I've been going down every day to see what's going on. But before we talk about that, I hope you'll indulge me for a moment. In the world of coffee, you were mentioning before you turned me on here. You may remember the Jackie Gleason show, and he would start out his show, and one of his assistants would bring him out a cup of coffee, and he would sip it.
I remember.
And that's how he would start the show. And I remember seeing that as a kid, and I thought, man, coffee must be really good. And you know what? It is.
I'd forgotten that. I was a huge fan of Jackie Gleason's show, and yeah, that's right. He would always be, and someone would bring him a cup of coffee, and he would take a sip and then go,
and the crowd would love it. They were waiting for him to do it. It was really nice. So it's real quiet down here now. I mean, it's an amazing scene. It's very sad, of course, to me, and I'm sure to many others. For those listeners who are familiar with D.C. area from visiting, the entire mall, that's where all the Smithsonian museums are, and it stretches from the Capitol west, through the Washington Monument to the Lincoln Memorial, and includes now the World War II Memorial, Vietnam and Korean Memorial, and other areas. That's all shut down, and then the perimeter extends very far from that. I'm not quite sure the status of the 4 major bridges coming into D.C. They're going to be closed at some point today. Already, traffic is snarled on the 14th Street Bridge, which is the artery that takes people off of the Interstate 395 right to downtown, and bridges crossing from the Arlington Cemetery and further up the river towards Georgetown. You're diverted when you come in from Virginia to streets away from the downtown area. We're looking at a huge area that's off limits to cars, and they've shut the subway stations down, meaning you can't even transfer between stations. Then the trains aren't even stopping at those stations. So for people who think, well, I can take the subway down and then transfer to another one to get closer for the inauguration, that's not going to happen either. So it's a shutdown like I've never seen in D.C., and there hasn't been any indication of trouble. Some of the intelligence folks at the Pentagon and elsewhere theorize that the overwhelming show of force and these precautions have convinced those who may have sought to cause trouble not to even try to come. Even if they can get in here, it might be hard for them to get into the city. You can still walk around in that area that's fenced off. I have a press pass, so that makes it a little bit easier to get around, but it's all by foot. And residents who live in that area are permitted to come in and out, but they can't bring their cars. So it's just a very interesting tableau of the Capitol. Now, tonight, President-elect Biden, Vice President-elect Harris are going to be here in D.C. They're going to appear at the Lincoln Memorial in a ceremony honoring all those who have died from COVID, and it'll be their sort of first official inauguration event. Of course, the inauguration is set for tomorrow at noon Eastern Time. They did their rehearsal yesterday. There was a slight panic when there was a fire spotted a couple blocks from the Capitol. It turned out to be not related to the inauguration, so everything went back on track.
The monuments are closed to the public, right? I mean, right now
Correct.
You cannot come and be a tourist, correct?
Correct. Well, you could probably walk. You can't go into Washington Monument. That's been closed for a while. But you probably can go over to the Jefferson Memorial, because that's outside of that shutdown area. But and you might be able to go to the Lincoln Memorial. That's part of the closed-off area now because of the ceremonies. So I got to be honest. Didn't try to go to any of the memorials yesterday. I was just more looking around everything. But I think it's highly unlikely that you're going to be able to get into town unless you live in town or you know where to park and bike in or walk in the rest of, many, many blocks to kind of get to that area. Now, people are going to be attending the inauguration ceremonies. People have tickets and there's seats for them. So there will be a flow of people coming in to see the ceremony outside, but there won't be the crowds that we've seen for President Trump's inauguration or President Obama's inauguration that go into the mall and listen to those speakers. You're not going to see any of that, and I don't think there's really going to be a parade per se, so it's going to be much different.
I was surprised watching some of the TV coverage yesterday to see the view from the balcony or whatever you call that, where the president's going to take his oath of office. I was surprised to see that there are seats out there. I mean, there will be some. I had visions of nobody watching, but there will be some spectators.
Yeah.
I assume they're invitation only.
Yeah, there'll be. Well, I attended the best view I ever had of inauguration as a viewer. I was a member of the press, and I had a press ticket, which put me in the first section, sort of right below where President Clinton was inaugurated his first term. There's tickets. You had ticketed areas all the way back to essentially where the mall begins. There's different sections. Now, on the platform, up on the stage there, that's the west inside the Capitol that you're referring to. There'll be members of Congress and dignitaries. President Carter's not coming because he's older and ill and doesn't want to travel. Yeah. But I think President Bush is coming, and I think that President Clinton may be coming. Vice President Pence is coming. So, there are people who are going to be up there with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris for the ceremony, members of Congress and probably some family members. And then there will be some people, as I say, in the immediate areas down there where you're seeing seats. So there, again, but it's not going to be what we have got used to seeing at our inaugurations.
I've been to, I was at George W. Bush's, one of his inaugurals, and I was at both of Obama's. And I think about how Obama, his first inaugural especially, it was almost like a street carnival in D.C. at the time. I mean, everybody was just, so excited and exuberant, and they were all over the street, and there were street vendors, and I had a really good seat, which was nice, because I had a press pass at the time. And it's just hard for me to envision when I think of that, which was like, say, just like a street car. I mean, I remember after the inauguration, I tried to get into one of the more popular taverns to have a celebratory drink. No possible way, because everybody was already in there. And I compare that now with what I'm seeing and what I anticipate happening tomorrow. There won't be anything like that. It's going to be a very, very different type.
And even during President Trump's inauguration and President Obama's inauguration, there were people who opposed both of them, and they came to Washington to do counter demonstrations, and they were held without any violence, really, although there were some clashes with President Trump 4 years ago, but far away from the inauguration site, up about 12, 15 blocks away. But the places were open, as you said, and people were enjoying it. And, it's interesting comment. The hotels, some of them closed. Some of them are open because they're housing National Guard members. That's where they're staying, despite people thinking they're all sleeping in the Capitol. Those are just rest areas for them, the Guard. But, the restaurants are closed. They're closed because of COVID. And you can do outside seating, but many of them aren't going to be doing that in that area. They're not going to have people coming. I think some of the hotels that have guests, they'll have dining facilities available for them. But, it's not what you experienced at all, nor what I'm used to seeing.
Today is also Donald Trump's final full day as president. Yeah. Anticipating pardons to come out today. I guess the speculation is he will not attempt to pardon himself, but he has a pretty hefty number of pardons, anywhere I hear from 50 to 100, that he could be issuing sometime during the day today.
Yeah, I'm hearing the same number. And in regards to pardons for himself or his daughter or Jared Kushner or sort of like his family, that seems not to be on the table. But people like to remind you, President Trump is President Trump, and he makes his own decisions, and he can change his mind quickly. As you said, this is his last full day. He leaves tomorrow. I think at 11 a.m. he's flying out of here to Florida. So when he will leave as president, but he will land in Florida, which is about 2 hours with Air Force One. He won't be president when he lands. So at some point during that trip, the plane designation switches from Air Force One to another call signal, although he will still have priority landing when he gets to Florida, no doubt. It's very interesting, that he's choosing to leave that close to the inauguration. In other words, disrupt it as much as possible, perhaps. And he can do the pardons, up until, 11:59 or noon tomorrow. But he doesn't have to be in the Oval Office necessarily to do it. He could sign them on a plane. He does have to sign the pardons, or commutations if he chooses that route. But the Pentagon is just watching carefully as well this last day. There's B-52s cruising around. There was an explosion in Iraq today, which had according to the Pentagon statement this morning to us, no Americans were involved. It wasn't an American action. They're not sure what it was. So, the Pentagon's thinking is Iran really doesn't want to do anything to provoke President Trump. They want to try to work with Joe Biden. So the concern is that President Trump may do something as well. It's the last day, but it's not even noon here yet, so he still has more than 24 hours to be president.
We're talking to Tom Scudieri, our D.C. correspondent here on the Watchdog Morning Show for a Tuesday, 8/24, 30 degrees at the Wheeling, Ohio County Airport. Tom, Pentagon is your beat primarily. What's going to happen? I mean, the president still wants some kind of military send-off. Is he going to, President Trump, is he going to get that?
Yeah, yes and no. This is one of these things that people, they hear this and they're not sure what happens. Most presidents, when they leave, when President Obama left 4 years ago, he wasn't president. He went to Andrews and left. The military gave him a send-off. They salute the outgoing commander-in-chief. The degree of ceremony varies basically on how the military has gotten along with that president and the time and the mode. You're in the middle of a war, you're not going to be doing an elaborate ceremony. What President Trump is not going to receive probably is sort of a special ceremony at the Pentagon or a special military send-off, which they liked, and they basically got most of what they wanted in that sense. But, the clashes between the Pentagon leadership and President Trump over troop withdrawals, over strategy, and other things have been well reported. We don't need to repeat them now. So it hasn't been necessarily the best relationship, and this purge of defense officials since the election, installing his own loyalists who have done things to upset the longtime Pentagon officials. It's not a warm relationship at this point between the president and the Pentagon folks. So he'll have a ceremony in Andrews. How much he can demand for that ceremony, of course, is up to him. He does remain the commander-in-chief, as we just said, and he can order certain things, and they'll do them. But it'll be a ceremony probably lacking passion.
That's a great phrase. I like that. One of the, awkward things about his decision to not attend the inaugural and to actually literally be out of town by the time the swearing-in occurs is that they have to figure out a way to do the handing off of the so-called nuclear football, the set of codes that one president has, and then we'll turn over. Normally, if they were close by, it would be fairly easy if they were having a traditional transition of power. But he'll be in Florida at the time of the President Biden swearing in. Biden, of course, in D.C. So I guess they're going to have two separate footballs, right?
Well, I can give you some insight on that because I researched this out a little bit a couple weeks ago. There's actually, this is not a public knowledge, but it's not obviously a top secret because I know it. There's actually 3 footballs, okay? The president has one. There's one close to the vice president, and then there's a third one in an undisclosed location. In case there's for the designated survivor, should that be the case, okay? And so the fact that Vice President Pence will be attending the inauguration means that that football would be could be given to Joe Biden once he becomes president, and the codes will change anyway. So President Trump, there will be one with President Trump if he flies to Florida, but as soon as he's not president any longer, the codes change and he doesn't have access to it, okay? Not that they're concerned about that. I'm just explaining how it works. And there was some concern a couple weeks ago that, President Trump wasn't going to attend, Vice President Pence wasn't going to attend. Then what do you do? Because you can't take the third football away from that secure location for the designated survivor. They were going to create a fourth football. And when we say football, that's just slang. It's not a football. It's a briefcase with codes and pre-arranged, pre-agreed on plans. And the process, if I have one more minute to explain this, because people are interested, I think, and confused because there's no button to push. There's no one. It's a several-step process to launch nuclear weapons, and especially if it's a first strike. Okay, there are pre-approved plans where a president would say, "I'm making this. I'm making this up." Okay, let's do Halo. Okay, and Halo is already an attack someplace. It's been approved, and the consequences have been gamed out. That's one way. But then if it's an ad lib, like the president says, well, let's attack some other place that hasn't been cleared, or thought out, they have to go through a process before that. This is a first strike. We're not talking about missiles coming in and we have to fire missiles in return. So that was a long explanation, but it is important. And in this case, Vice President Pence, again, by him going to the inauguration, makes this a whole lot easier.
I did not know all that stuff. That's kind of I actually thought there's only one football, and they're going to have to create a second one for this occasion. So there actually are three normally. That's well, you've enlightened me a little bit today.
Well, I'm glad.
Again,
I'm
if the stroke,
use my expertise here on. But I did, I was curious about it as well. When this whole idea came up, as I said, and I did some research and talked to some folks, and they explained it to me within reason without revealing any deep dark secrets.
what do you think Donald Trump's day is going to be like today? I mean, we're just speculating.
That's real speculation because I don't cover the White House, as you know. But based on friends who do, colleagues who do, who respect their insight, it's going to be a day, I think, where he's all over the board in his emotions. He sort of dropped the sort of I won the election line, and he's not on Twitter anymore, which is a big difference. So he's not able to sort of tweet things out. He did tape a statement that should be airing, I think, sometime today or tonight, sort of a goodbye and all that. We'll see that. I mean, clearly the pardon issue is going to be in play, if you can believe reports, and I do. I think a lot of hand-holding as much as possible. He's lashing out at everybody now. There's a report on Axios about how he was trying to dump the CIA director, Gina Haspel, sort of right after the election as well. So we're getting a lot of people leaking stuff now in a way to sort of burnish their own reputations after they leave the White House. And that, of course, President Trump hears this, and that just sets him off. So I think, I'm being reasonable here, I think. How does it feel to be a president of the United States and losing a re-election? Al Gore went into deep depression after almost winning, and that's understandable. He came very close, And of course, Jimmy Carter lost, and he went on and had a life after president that many people admire. So Donald Trump, we know what he's like, and he's, it's all about him. And he lost the election, and a lot of people voted for him, but he still lost. And now he's going to be turned out of office. And look, the country is not, 4 years ago, was in a lot better shape for reasons that he caused and reasons he didn't cause. And so, he's not going to have a great legacy as president, I think, depending on who writes history, of course. And I think that weighs on him a lot. I met him a long time ago. I covered him a long time ago. I don't profess to have any insight onto him now, but just knowing what he was like then, he hasn't changed. And I think he's going to have a rough day because he's still most powerful person on earth, but only for another day. And there's still a little bit of limits at what can be done. Like the self-pardon issue that you brought up before. You hear the people say, "Don't do this, don't do this," because if he does it, that may trigger votes against him in the impeachment trial in the Senate. So, that's the kind of logic that reportedly is being applied to him.
Anybody who loses an election has to feel depressed. I mean, I wouldn't, and I don't begrudge anyone from feeling that way. On the other hand, Donald Trump, from everything I've read, seen, and heard, the single worst thing that Donald Trump can call somebody else is loser. And he has done that during his entire 4 years in office. When he's mad at someone, he's just a loser. He's a loser. And it has to be running through his head today that I'm a loser. Now, he may come up with reasons and rationales in his own mind where he's not, but the truth of the matter is he has to know that he's getting on that plane and flying to Florida, and that's it.
I agree with you. I think back to when President Nixon resigned. Okay, he resigned and he left, a helicopter off the White House lawn, and remember he turned around and he flashed his victory sign as he always used to do.
Yep.
And he was still president then, of course. And so that was how he left, and that was how he had to deal with the humiliation of resigning from the White House. And I'm not being sympathetic or otherwise. I'm just, speaking candidly here as an observer. There's not going to be that moment necessarily for Donald Trump unless it's at Andrews Air Force Base, Joint Base Andrews tomorrow when he leaves on the plane. I don't believe he's going to have any kind of Rose Garden departure. Maybe he will on a helicopter to Andrews, which is probably how he's going to go out there, but who knows what he's going to do then. So, yeah, it's going to get to him. He's going to gnaw on him. He's going to be down in Mar-a-Lago as well, and it's going to weigh on him, I think.
If I didn't dislike him so much, I would say I'm going to feel sorry for him. But he's brought an awful lot of grief to this country, in my opinion. So I won't say I'm pleased to see him sorrowful, but I'm not going to offer him a whole lot of sympathy either. That's my opinion. You don't need to comment on that because I can offer more opinion perhaps than you can. Are you covering the inaugural tomorrow or not?
I don't have a ticket. I probably will go down and be in the environs. That's the right use of that word. Because I can get in closer with my press pass. But to be honest with you, I think that any action is going to be on the outside of that perimeter or not inside the perimeter. If it's inside the perimeter, we have a big problem. But I think that's where it's going to be. And so, yeah, I'm going to go down. I'm a reporter, and I've been down every day, and I just want to see what it's like. I'm thinking maybe there might be supporters of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris who are outside the perimeter demonstrating their support. There might be some good stories like that. And so I'll go down. My son's interested in going down. I have to make a judgment on whether or not to bring him. If I think there's a violence factor involved, I won't. But, he's a young man. He wants to see it, and I admire that. And so we'll see.
Yeah, there's the eyewitness to history thought that you would want your son to see. On the other hand, there's the potential for violence. I'm hoping that's I won't say overblown, but I'm hoping that we've taken enough precautions that it's not going to occur. But I
think so. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I think so. I think you're right. I mean, their concern now is lone wolves, trying to sneak in or being on that perimeter and doing something on the perimeter, the people who may have been gathered there, that type of thing is sort of a concern now. But as they're obviously concerned about the inauguration itself, they seem to have enough troops and enough barriers there to keep out anything that happened, like it happened on January 6th. They don't expect something like that to happen because they're ready for something like that. I'm more concerned about what may happen beyond the perimeter. And that goes back to my decision about, say, bringing him or any friends who want to come with me.
Yeah. All right, Tom, I appreciate your time today. And enjoy the inaugural or the outside the inaugural or whatever happens. And we'll get your analysis and assessment next week when we get together.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Howard. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Thanks. I appreciate it. Tom Squitieri, our D.C. correspondent, checks in on Tuesdays with us. And tomorrow is inaugural day. Here on the Watchdog, we will provide you with live coverage of the Biden inaugural. The swearing in, of course, by constitutional requirement is at the stroke of noon. At noon tomorrow, Joe Biden takes the oath of office. The ceremonies themselves begin around 11:30 or so. I think there's some music and the poets and poems being read and others are introduced and so on. So that begins around 11:30, and our coverage will begin right after the 11 o'clock newscast tomorrow. So be with us tomorrow for coverage of the Biden-Harris inaugural, and hopefully it will be a quiet and peaceful inaugural. But we'll have to wait and see. And somewhere along the way, I'm sure that all the networks will have to figure out how are they going to balance the Trump farewell. I mean, it would be appropriate news coverage to cover whatever Trump is doing as he prepares to leave. If he has a military send-off, or if he has, he's trying to get, apparently send out invitations to all kinds of friends to come to his goodbye party, if you will. And a lot of them have not bothered to RSVP. So we'll probably be having some coverage of that as well, mixed in with the inaugural. Biffy, I remember when Carter was leaving office and Reagan was taking over, we were covering two stories at the same time. You remember the Iranian hostages were being released on the day of Reagan's swearing in. Most folks believe it was done by Iran to purposely give Reagan credit and to interfere with Carter. But it was very interesting. I remember watching two separate stories unfolding on television at the exact same time: the release of the hostages and the inauguration of Ronald Reagan. It was two stories at once. This will be somewhat like that, not quite the same, because normally the outgoing president is sitting there with the incoming president. Normally there's a handshake or a whatever, and then the power changes, as it should in a democracy, and the outgoing president leaves out the back door and goes away, and the new president, comes up and speaks. But this will be different because Trump will be on his own. So it'll be interesting to see how it happens. We'll cover it for you tomorrow here on the Watchdog Morning Show. It's 8:40, 20 till the hour. I want to talk about vaccines. I want to talk about the state income tax in West Virginia. Maybe you've got something else on your mind. If you do, you are welcome to text me on the text line, 304-214-1600, 304-214-1600. Feel free to let me know what you're thinking. Do you anticipate, what do you think? Do you think there will be any violence tomorrow? Today or tomorrow, but tomorrow, as a result of the inaugural? 25,000 National Guard troops are on hand, and the the FBI and other law enforcement folks have been trying very hard to keep track of potential troublemakers, if you will. Have they succeeded? Will they be able to keep the violence down? Will some of these folks be smart enough to say, you know what, they're expecting trouble at the inaugural, so let's not do that, but let's do something else? I don't know. After the Capitol insurrection, I don't know. I don't know what's liable to happen. I do know that right now we're going to check some headlines for you from our friends at the Big Seven.
The WTRF Channel 7 News Update is brought to you by Thomas Auto Centers, Mall Road, St. Clairsville. Get the best deal at Thomas Auto Centers.
Now it's time for your local news headlines.
passed away. Join us coming up on Thursday night for the Bob Huggins Show here on MSN. That is today's Mountaineer Report, brought to us by Kroger, the official grocer of WVU Athletics. I'm Tony Caridi on the Mountaineer Sports Network from Learfield, IMG College.
Hello, everyone. From the Watchdog, I'm Darnell Foster with a look at your local weather forecast for your Tuesday. We'll call it mostly cloudy, a couple of flurries. Daytime high near 35. Your overnight low of 24 degrees under partly cloudy skies. A mix of clouds and limited sunshine for your Wednesday, with temperatures in the upper 20s for daytime highs. Have yourself a great day, everyone. From the Watchdog, I'm Darnell Foster.
Hi, this is Shauna Johnson from Metro News, just one of the contributors to the Watchdog Morning Show with Howard Monroe. Listen and stay informed every weekday right here.
You can now watch the Legislative Watchdogs every Wednesday morning from 9 to 10 a.m. on Facebook Live. Talk radio taken to the next level. Only on the Watchdog. Give us a call and tell us what you're thinking. Locally, 304-214-1600. Out of the area, toll free, 866-514-1600 or 304-232-TALK.
It's your turn to talk. From politics to pet peeves, get it off your chest and on the air. The Watchdog Morning Show with Howard Monroe continues.
30 degrees at the Wheeling, Ohio County Airport. Winds are up to 16 miles an hour, which means the feels-like temperature is 19 degrees. So it definitely feels cold, chilly outside. Be sure to bundle up if you are out and about. 30 degrees at the Wheeling, Ohio County Airport. 30 degrees here at my home studios in the Elm Grove section of Wheeling, and 30 degrees at the Robinson Auto Group Studios downtown Wheeling in the heart of the Ohio Valley. Lunch with books today at the Ohio County Public Library. This week, of course, is Martin Luther King, or yesterday was Martin Luther King Day. So this is a week where we commemorate Martin Luther King Jr. It is also Black History Month. In honor of Dr. Martin Luther King, musician and singer Carlos Trapp will present the roots of black music in America at Lunch with Books at the Ohio County Public Library today. Now, keep in mind that the library still is on COVID precautions, so you can't go there, but you can watch it at the Ohio County Library's website, Facebook page, the Lunch with Books program today, looking back over the roots of black music in America with some singing and dancing, and, you know, you can probably sing along if you want to. You'll be singing along at your home, not in the crowd, but nonetheless, you can do that. So you can watch it live on YouTube. You can watch it live on the Ohio County Library's Facebook page as well. Lunch with Books today, Ohio County Library, the roots of black music in America. Coming up today at 10 on Statewide Talkline, Hoppy Kercheval will be interviewing Governor Justice. Yep, JJ is going to be on talking about his priorities for the second term. The income tax issue that we're going to be talking about a bit next hour, the vaccinations, the COVID situation, and so on. So a good round-robin conversation with Hoppy and Governor Justice coming up today at 10. You want to be watching for it here or listening for it here on the Watchdog. Also coming up, Brad McElhenney will be talking about the school reopenings today. And Chris Lawrence is going to be in to talk about some outdoors activity. So it's all coming up. Statewide Talk Line today from 10 until noon. Then at 12 o'clock, of course, the live WTF TV7 headlines. Always remember, if during the middle of the day you need to catch up on the news, best way to do it is simply go to WTRF if you can. But if you can't, listen to them on the radio. We have their live headlines for you right at noon. And then after that, it is the Bill DeFabio Variety Show. And who's he got on today? Oh, Mel Blunt, right, Biffy?
Yes, Mel Blunt will be on today with Bill.
So that's it. I think that's in the 1 o'clock hour.
Yes, it is in the second. Second hour of Bill's show. Mel Blunt will be on.
Tapping once again, Mr. DeFabio's in-depth connections with the Pittsburgh folks. So Mel Blunt today on the Bill DeFabio Variety Show. And then when Bill is done, It's Big Talk with Big Rick DeRubis beginning at 2 o'clock. So stick around for that as well. I don't know what Big Rick's got coming up today. Sure to be something worthwhile. Always is. Big Rick, the new afternoon guy here on the Watchdog. So that's some of what's coming up. Tomorrow here on this show, I should mention this too. Of course, we'll be covering the inaugural. We'll have special reports all throughout the morning, pre-inaugural reports. Hopefully there won't be any violence to talk about. It'll just be getting ready for the Biden-Harris inaugural. But it's been, I'm trying to think, how long has it been, Biffy? We've been talking about the cracker plant in Eastern Ohio. I mean, well over 5 years. Has it been 10 years since we started talking about the cracker plant?
It's been a long time, it seems.
I mean, certainly, I think it's been more than 5. I don't know if it's been 10 years or not, but it's been on the horizon. It's been on the discussion stages for a long, long time. This large-scale cracker plant in Eastern Ohio, and economic development folks see that as a huge economic boon to the Upper Ohio Valley. There was one economic development report that came out. I forget who did it recently, that said it's the only economic development thing on the horizon. That's all we got. That's it. All the eggs in that basket. But not everybody thinks it's a good idea. There are groups of folks who think that the cracker plant is bad for the environment, is bad for our community, and we ought to be looking at other ways of diversifying our energy industry and our economy. We will talk to some of those folks tomorrow here on the show, and why they object to the plant. And there's a hearing, Department of Natural Resources hearing in Ohio on Thursday on some subjects related to the cracker plant. We'll preview that as well. So that's coming up tomorrow, because not everybody thinks it's a great idea. Personally, regardless of a good idea or a bad idea, I don't think the cracker plant's going to come to fruition. I just think it's been talked about for too long. They keep pushing it back and pushing it back. If they were to make a decision sometime in the next year or so, we're still 5 years down the road from seeing activity, seeing it completed. I just think, certainly not in my lifetime, am I going to see it as a major economic boon around here. I think that I don't know what phrase I want to use. It's not whistling past the graveyard, but I think that we're just fooling ourselves at this stage of the game if we think it's going to happen. Now, I'm going to get texts right away from some key local officials who are going to tell me that that's not true, that it's going to happen. They firmly believe it. I'm going to get texts from people saying, I know it's going to happen. I have inside information. I'm just telling you my personal opinion. I think it's been talked about for too long. I think the decision keeps getting pushed back too much. I just think I think the gas industry has changed a bit since it first got started, and I don't think it's going to happen. But that's just that's an opinion, and that's not based on inside information. That's just my opinion. But we'll talk about the other side of the cracker plant tomorrow here on the Watchdog Morning Show. And as I mentioned, we'll also be talking about the inaugural throughout the day.
And Howard,
Is there something on your mind you want to talk to me about? Sorry, what's that, Biffy?
No, I was just going to say real quick, and I've said for years regarding the cracker plant, I'll believe it when we're sitting here and we turn it on the Big 7, and there's people, about 5 or 6 of them, maybe a little more, that are standing there with shovels in the ground that put them in and take that first shovel full of dirt and flip it over their shoulder that says that they're down there. I've held that notion for years.
I mean, there is activity. They've been buying property. They've been doing some developing of the land and so on. But I think until we see, you're right, until we see actual effort being made to build a plant. Now, will something else happen there? Maybe. I mean, will there be some kind of a energy industry created short of a cracker plant? Possibly. Again, they've bought, as a PTT Global, I think it is, they've bought a lot of land. They've done an awful lot of developing of it. But I'm with you, Biffy. Wait until I see the actual shovels in the ground.
And the people there with suits, the big shots with the suits that are doing it, that's when I'll believe it.
Yeah, I am not optimistic. It's all. I don't want to be the naysayer. I don't want to be the gloom sayer. I'm just plain not optimistic that it's likely to happen. But we shall see. As time goes by, we shall see. Howard, you are correct for off the text line 304-214-1600. Howard, you are correct for once. Okay. Can't let it go. Can't you just say, Howard, you're right? Howard, you are correct for once. The cracker plant will not be coming because Biden and Harris are going to ban fracking. Oh, I get it. Okay. I wonder why this guy was telling me I see. Yeah. No, I don't think that's the reason. I think it's going to be not coming because I just don't think it's going to be, it's no longer economically feasible. Howard, I know the cracker plant is coming for sure because, no, I can't read that. I can't read that. I know the cracker plant is coming for sure because a year ago, someone guaranteed it and put his reputation on the line. Mm-hmm. Wasn't me. Let's just put it that way. Okay. I'm not gonna go down that.
No.
No need to drag that.
That is
if
good.
If you want to offer your thoughts, yeah, well, it is a good one. I give you credit for the comment you left there, but I can't. I'm just not going to share it here on the radio. I'm just because I'm not a troublemaker. At least not this kind of troublemaker. If you want to join me, 304-214-1600, 304-214-1600. Tell me what you think about the cracker plant. Do you think Biff and I are right? We'll believe it when we see it. And I don't think we're going to see it. Do you agree with the folks from the Ohio River Valley opposition group that's going to be with us tomorrow that it's just a bad idea anyway? Or do you think that it's a huge economic boon to the upper Ohio Valley and it will eventually occur? Text me what your thoughts are if you'd like to. 304-214-1600. Well, coming up next hour, we're going to revisit an issue we talked about a bit yesterday with Senator Ehlenfeld, and that is reducing or eliminating the state income tax in West Virginia. Key Republican leaders in the legislature are talking about that. Governor Justice is talking about that. He'll talk about it on Hoppy's show today. If we do reduce the income tax or eliminate it, again, the income tax accounts for a little less than half of the entire budget in West Virginia. What does that mean? What does it mean? And what options are there? We'll talk with Sean O'Leary from the West Virginia Center on Budget and Policy about it coming up in the next hour of the show. But first, we'll check in with ABC. They'll bring us up to speed on what's happening in the lockdown nation's capital this morning and other breaking news. Then we'll talk to Sean O'Leary and find a few other odds and ends to deal with in the next hour of the show. We are the Watchdog Morning Show for a Tuesday. It's 9 o'clock.
Where the days are longer, the nights are stronger than moonshine.
The Watchdog is FM 98.1, AM 1600 WKKX Wheeling, FM 97.7, AM 1370 WVLY Moundsville.
The ABC News is brought to you by Thomas Auto Centers, Mall Road, St. Clairsville. Get the best deal at Thomas Auto Centers.
Yeah, I wasn't going to go down that text, Biffy. Yeah, but I don't want to cause any. I don't want to cause any trouble. All right, I'm going to take a break. I'll be right back and get some more. I think I'm going to get some more Dr. Pepper. Actually, I'll be back in a minute.